Men will often deny their feelings long before they admit they like someone. That is simply how many of them handle attraction. They act as if everything is perfectly normal. They pretend nothing is different. They behave like you are just another person in their life. Meanwhile, so many women spend hours trying to figure out what is really going on. They reread messages. They ask friends what they think. They replay one conversation over and over, hoping to find one hidden clue they missed. But here is something that almost nobody explains. While he is carefully controlling every word that comes out of his mouth, four parts of his body are quietly revealing the truth right in front of you. They do it again and again without him even noticing. Once you understand what those four signals are, you will stop wasting time wondering whether he likes you. You will begin seeing things that were always there. And this next part is more surprising than most people expect. Women are usually very good at reading emotions. They notice details. They sense changes in energy. Yet many have been taught to search in the wrong place. They focus only on his words. They wait for the perfect text. They count how many times he calls. They measure every promise he keeps. Those things matter, of course. But words are the easiest part of human behavior to control. A man can stop himself from saying what he feels. He can choose every sentence carefully. He can hide behind confidence even when he feels nervous inside. His body does not have that same ability. It reacts on its own. It follows patterns that have existed for thousands of years. Those reactions happen so naturally that no amount of pretending can completely hide them. Stay with me, because what comes next may completely change the way you notice attraction forever. Once you see these signals, it becomes almost impossible to ignore them. Researchers who studied human communication discovered something fascinating. Only a very small part of a message comes from the actual words people speak. Most of what we understand comes from body language, movement, posture, facial expressions, and tiny behaviors that happen automatically. Think about that for a moment. When a man stands in front of you acting as though he feels absolutely nothing, there is a good chance that the rest of his body is telling a completely different story. His shoulders, his eyes, his hands, and even the direction he naturally turns can reveal emotions that never reach his voice. That is why actions happening without thought are often more honest than carefully chosen sentences. I want to be completely real with you because this is something I understand personally. I have caught myself doing many of the behaviors you are about to learn. At the time, I honestly had no idea they were happening. That is exactly why they matter. These are not secret tricks men practice. They are not planned signals designed to send hidden messages. They are automatic reactions that appear when genuine feelings begin to grow. Often the man is nervous, sometimes he is unsure, other times he simply is not ready to admit what he feels, even to himself. Looking back now, I can clearly remember conversations where I believed I was acting completely normal. In reality, my body was probably revealing everything. It makes me smile now because I thought I was impossible to read. I was not, and by the end of this, you will understand why. Keep watching because the first sign surprises almost everyone, and once you notice it, you will never look at these moments the same way again. Before we move to the next signal, give this first one your full attention because once you notice it, you will begin seeing it in places you never expected. It is one of those tiny details that most people overlook, yet it quietly reveals so much. We are talking about his eyes, not simply the fact that he looks at you because everyone already knows that eye contact can mean interest. This goes much deeper. It is about something inside his eyes that he cannot consciously control, no matter how calm or confident he tries to appear. It is his pupils. When a man feels genuinely attracted to someone, his pupils naturally become larger. The dark circle in the middle of his eyes expands on its own. He cannot force it to happen, and he cannot stop it from happening either. This reaction is controlled by the nervous system, the same part of the body that manages things you never think about, like your heartbeat, your breathing, or that sudden feeling in your stomach when something catches you by surprise. The moment his brain recognizes someone it finds especially interesting, it sends an automatic signal that allows more light into the eyes. His pupils widen without asking for permission. It is one of the quickest and most honest reactions the body can produce. Stay with me because the next part explains why this tiny change can reveal far more than carefully chosen words ever could, and once you understand it, you will never look at someone's eyes the same way again. Studies on human attraction found that people's pupils become noticeably larger when they look at someone they truly find appealing. The change is often stronger than most people realize. More importantly, it is completely automatic. You cannot decide to make your pupils larger. You cannot rehearse it in front of a mirror. You cannot switch it on when you want to impress someone or turn it off when you want to hide your feelings. The body simply reacts honestly. That is why many experts consider it one of the most reliable signs of genuine interest. What makes this even more fascinating is that the reaction does not appear for just a second and disappear. If the attraction is real, the pupils often stay larger while he continues looking at you or talking with you. So imagine you are having a conversation with a man and his eyes seem unusually deep or darker than normal every time he looks directly at you. It may not just be your imagination. His nervous system could be quietly responding in a way he is completely unaware of. Of course, lighting matters. In a dark room, everyone's pupils naturally become larger because the eyes need more light. That is perfectly normal. But in bright daylight, inside a coffee shop, at work, or anywhere with ordinary lighting, noticeably larger pupils can be a meaningful clue. Keep watching because the second body signal is even harder for men to hide, and it often appears before they even realize they are giving themselves away. A friend once told me about someone she had been spending time with for several weeks. She could never decide whether he actually liked her or if he was simply being polite. Every conversation left her wondering. He seemed calm. He never said anything obvious. He was one of those people who looked almost impossible to read. Then one afternoon they were sitting near a large window with bright daylight filling the room. As they talked, she noticed something unusual. Every time he looked directly into her eyes, his eyes seemed much darker than before. She did not think much about it at the time. She simply assumed he had beautiful eyes. Weeks later, after learning how pupil changes work during genuine attraction, that memory suddenly made perfect sense. She realized his body had been revealing feelings long before his words ever did. He had never been difficult to understand. She had simply been looking in the wrong place. Not long after that, he finally admitted how he felt, and today they are still together. She laughs whenever she remembers that afternoon because the answer had been sitting right in front of her the entire time. It reminds us that the smallest details are often the most honest ones. And believe me, what comes next is even more surprising because the second signal involves a body part that almost every man forgets to control, no matter how confident he appears on the outside. The eyes are only the first clue because the next signal comes from a part of the body that almost no one thinks about watching. Once you understand this, you may start remembering conversations from years ago and suddenly see them in a completely different way. It is about his feet. More specifically, the direction they naturally point when he is standing near you or sitting across from you. This small detail is surprisingly powerful because people rarely pay attention to it. Experts who spent years studying human behavior notice something interesting. When people try to hide what they are feeling, they usually focus on controlling their face, their voice, or their hands. They learn to smile even when they do not feel like it. They keep their voice steady. They make eye contact because they know others are watching. But almost nobody thinks about controlling their feet. That is why the feet often reveal the truth before anything else does. They quietly point toward the place or the person the mind feels drawn to. When a man truly likes you, his feet will often turn in your direction without him even realizing it. It does not matter if he is talking to someone else or standing in the middle of a busy group. His body has already made a choice before his words ever catch up. His feet simply follow that silent decision. Stay with me because this tiny detail becomes even more interesting once you notice how often it appears in everyday situations. And after today, you will never stop seeing it. Imagine a man standing at a party surrounded by several people. He may be laughing with someone else. His face might be turned away. He may even be trying his best to look relaxed and completely unaffected. Yet if his feet stay pointed toward you, his body may already be revealing where his attention truly is. It happens naturally because the body often moves toward what it finds important before the conscious mind says anything at all. If both of you are sitting down and you cannot easily see his feet under the table, pay attention to his knees instead. Very often they lean toward the person he feels most connected to. It is the same message expressed through a slightly different movement. The direction stays the same because the feeling underneath has not changed. Now think about the opposite situation. If a man is talking with you but his feet are already pointing toward the door or toward another part of the room, that can suggest his body is preparing to leave even if his words remain friendly. It does not automatically mean he dislikes you. There could be many reasons, but body direction often gives an honest clue about where someone's attention wants to go. Our bodies naturally move closer to what feels comfortable and drift away from what does not. That is why this signal is worth noticing alongside everything else instead of judging it by itself. Keep watching because the next body signal is even harder to hide, and most men reveal it within seconds without realizing they have done anything at all. I remember catching myself doing this once, and looking back it still makes me smile. I was at a work gathering talking with a small group of people. There was a woman there that I had quietly liked for quite some time, but I never planned to make it obvious. I thought I was acting completely normal. I was speaking with other co-workers, asking questions, smiling politely, and trying to keep everything casual. Later, one of my friends walked over with a grin and asked me a simple question. He said, "Did you notice where your feet were pointing the whole time?" I looked confused. Then he laughed and told me they had been aimed directly toward her for almost the entire conversation, even though I was speaking to someone else. I had absolutely no idea I was doing it. That was the moment I realized how honest the body can be when real feelings are involved. We spend so much effort controlling our words that we forget the quieter signals happening underneath. And believe me, the third sign is even more revealing because it involves a movement that happens in only a split second, yet it often says more than an entire conversation ever could. Stay with me because this is where things become impossible to ignore. I honestly had no idea I was doing it. My feet had already made the introduction while I was still acting as if I had barely noticed she had entered the room. That is how automatic this signal can be. It slips past the part of your mind that believes it is in full control. But if that surprised you, this next clue is even more revealing because it is something most people dismiss as nothing more than a random habit. In reality, it can quietly point toward genuine attraction. We are talking about his hands, more specifically when he keeps touching his face, his jaw, his lips, or rubbing the back of his neck while he is around you. It may look small, but there is often much more happening beneath the surface. When a man feels real attraction, his body enters a light state of excitement. It is not fear. It is not panic. It is simply the natural response that happens when someone truly matters. His heartbeat becomes a little faster. His skin becomes slightly more sensitive. His nervous system wakes up because it recognizes that someone important is standing right in front of him. One of the body's easiest ways to calm that extra energy is through self-touch. Resting a hand on the jaw, brushing the lips, or rubbing the neck creates a quiet, calming effect that helps the body settle itself. Stay with me because the next detail explains why these little movements are often much more meaningful than they first appear. And once you notice them, they become surprisingly difficult to ignore. Behavior experts studying social interactions have found that people often touch their own face or neck more frequently when they feel emotionally excited during conversations with someone they genuinely like. The important point is that this reaction is connected to attraction rather than ordinary stress. Feeling nervous before speaking in public is very different from the excitement that appears when someone special walks into the room. The body reacts in its own quiet way. So if a man keeps brushing his jaw while talking with you, lightly touching his lips after you say something playful, or rubbing the back of his neck every time you catch him off guard with a compliment or a joke, there may be more happening than simple habit. His nervous system could be responding before his mind has even found the right words. I have seen this happen often enough that it almost makes me smile now whenever I notice it. A close friend once told me about a man she had been seeing. She said he seemed confident almost all the time, yet every time she teased him in a light-hearted way or surprised him with something sweet, his hand immediately reached the back of his neck. Every single time. She first assumed it was just a personal habit. Later, she realized it only happened when she created those moments. The movement was not random at all. His body was quietly reacting to her without his awareness. Once she noticed the pattern, she even tested it a few times just to see if it would happen again, and it always did. Keep watching because the final signal brings everything together, and many people miss it even though it is happening right in front of them. There is one last body signal, and I purposely saved it until the end because it is one of the clearest signs of genuine interest. It is harder to fake than eye contact, more consistent than foot direction, and often stronger than self-touch, because it involves the way a man positions his entire upper body. It is simply the direction he naturally faces. Think about what people do when they feel uncomfortable or emotionally distant. They turn slightly away. They angle their shoulders. They create space without even realizing it. The body naturally protects itself when it does not feel fully open, but when a man feels drawn towards someone, the opposite usually happens. His chest faces you, his shoulders square toward you. Instead of keeping one side turned away, his whole upper body naturally opens in your direction. Studies on social interaction have shown that people who feel genuine interest often turn the front of their body toward the person who has captured their attention, sometimes within only a few minutes of talking. Those without the same level of interest tend to stay slightly angled even while remaining perfectly friendly. The body often tells the truth long before words do. What makes this signal even stronger is that it appears when there is no reason for it. Imagine standing in a group where several conversations are happening at once, yet he keeps turning his chest back toward you again and again. Or imagine sitting side by side while he keeps rotating his whole body toward you instead of simply turning his head. Those quiet movements suggest his attention naturally returns to you. I remember seeing this happen at a dinner with friends. One person kept joining different conversations around the table, yet every few moments his shoulders and chest found their way back toward one woman without him noticing it himself. It was subtle, it was completely natural, and once you know what to watch for, it becomes one of the easiest signs to recognize. If you have made it this far, you are about to see everyday conversations in a completely different way because these small signals often reveal feelings long before anyone is ready to admit them out loud. There were 6 people sitting around the dinner table, and he was a couple of seats away from a woman he had casually mentioned to me more than once before. At first, everything looked completely ordinary. He was talking with everyone, laughing, joining different conversations, and acting relaxed. Nothing seemed unusual until I started paying attention to the direction of his body. Every single time he spoke, his chest and shoulders naturally turned toward her. Even when he was answering someone sitting on the opposite side of the table, his upper body kept drifting back in her direction as though she had an invisible pull on him. It happened again and again without him noticing. After dinner, I mentioned it to him, and he immediately laughed and said I was imagining things. So I described exactly what I had been watching for nearly 2 hours. I explained how his body kept returning to face her no matter who he was speaking with. He became quiet for a moment, smiled to himself, and finally admitted, "Maybe I really do like her." That answer did not surprise me at all. His body had been revealing it long before his words ever caught up. Moments like that remind us how honest body language can be when real emotions are involved. Stay with me, because this final piece connects everything together and helps explain why these signals become much more powerful when they appear at the same time instead of separately. Here is what makes these 4 body signals so interesting. They rarely appear one by one. They usually come as a group, quietly supporting each other. His pupils become larger when he looks directly at you. His feet naturally point toward you even while he is talking to someone else nearby. His hand reaches his jaw or the back of his neck after something you say catches him by surprise. Then, almost without thinking, his chest and shoulders turn fully toward you as though the rest of the room has faded into the background. When you notice 2 or 3 of these happening together during the same conversation, it is worth paying attention. It is often more meaningful than any single movement on its own. Researchers who spent years observing people in everyday places such as coffee shops, social gatherings, and parties noticed that genuine attraction is usually expressed through clusters of small, consistent behaviors rather than one dramatic gesture. The people who built the strongest connections were not always the loudest or the boldest. Instead, they gave off many tiny signals that worked together naturally. Most people around them never noticed these details, yet the person those signals were meant for often sensed something before they could explain why. Maybe you have experienced that feeling yourself. You meet someone and something quietly tells you there is a connection even before anything obvious has happened. Sometimes your mind cannot explain it yet, but your body has already noticed what your eyes have only begun to see. Keep watching because understanding these signals is only the beginning. Knowing how to respond is where everything truly changes. Now you know what to watch for. Larger pupils in normal lighting, feet naturally pointing toward you, a hand brushing the jaw or rubbing the back of the neck after an emotional moment, a chest and shoulders that keep facing you even when there is no reason to. These are not carefully planned moves. They are not secret techniques. They are simply natural reactions that often appear when someone's feelings become stronger than their ability to hide them. But there is another lesson that matters just as much. Recognizing attraction is often the easy part. Deciding what to do with that knowledge is where many people hesitate. It happens all the time. A woman notices the signs. She feels the connection. She waits for him to make the first move. Meanwhile, he may be doing exactly the same thing. He may be watching her just as carefully, hoping for one small sign that it is safe to take a chance. If both people keep waiting, a moment filled with possibility can slowly disappear without either person understanding what happened. That is why learning to notice these signals should never become a reason to overanalyze every interaction. Instead, let them help you understand what may already be there. The next time you find yourself wondering how a man really feels, do not rely only on his words. Watch his eyes when the light is bright. Notice where his feet naturally rest. See what his hands do after you surprise him. Pay attention to where his chest and shoulders keep returning when he forgets anyone is watching. His body may already be sharing the answer. You simply know how to recognize the language now, and in the next conversation, we will explore how to respond in a natural way that encourages genuine connection without forcing anything at all.